So I'm joined now by Professor Mark Swilling, co-director of the Centre for Sustainability Transitions at Stellenbosch University. Prof, thank you so much for your time. So you've heard that clip of the interview that I did with Pravin Gordhan a little earlier, and you could hear the tension when he alluded to the Energy Minister's comments. And the comments, of course, referring to the fact that Gwede Mantashe accused Eskom of treason and said that Andre de Ruyter was a traitor. Astonishing comments, and yet there was very little public support for Andre de Ruyter, and we know that that is one of the reasons that he has decided to step down. But it does point to, I mean, I'm thinking we're just coming out of the ANC elective conference, we've seen a new top 7, and the Energy Minister is once more the chair of the party. He's also the man that we have been told was part of the group that convinced the president to stay in his job when he was at the point of resigning after the release of that parliamentary Phala report. So Gwede Mantashe is in quite a powerful position in the party at the moment. Do you think that there is enough energy, if you'll pardon the pun, on board and enough common vision to do what is required to get us out of this load-shedding hole?
Well, Sally, you heard the Minister Gordhan, referring in public on television to what the minister responsible for energy should not be doing. So that's already an indicator of the lack of unanimity. What the minister responsible for energy did in making the accusation about treason is focus the public's attention on an individual as if that is the problem. The problem is systemic. And when you have a systemic problem, you need a coalition of forces that are going to collaborate around a vision and a commitment to get the job done. But if there isn't that unanimity of vision and strategy, no matter who you put in to replace the rate, you're not going to solve the problem.
You say the problem is systemic, but just break down the problem a little more for me. Because we'll hear Gwede Mantashe saying things like, no, I'm not against renewables and I'm not against a just transition. It's part of the policy. It's what government has committed to. He is raising valid fears about the loss of jobs in the coal sector. This is a problem that other countries have faced. So where is the unwilling part of it coming in? I mean, is it he says one thing and does another? Is it that in the previous few years he just didn't act quickly enough? Where would you pinpoint the areas of problem are?
Well, I think 2022 will go down as the year in which he made all the right decisions. So the embedded generation concession has resulted in around 9 gigawatts of capacity in the pipeline. But Windows 5 and 6, if you add those together, we're looking at around 16 gigawatts in the pipeline. If just 10 of those are delivered in the next 2 years, then we will see an end to load shedding. Because exactly as Minister Gordhan said, if we got more generation capacity on the grid, including gas, then Eskom will have the space that it needs in order to take the coal-based generation units off the grid for sufficient periods of time to thoroughly overhaul them and repair them. They don't have that wriggle room now. And that's the reason why we have the levels of uncertainty that we have. On top of that, we have the sabotage, the inefficiency, and the corruption to make matters worse. So it's pretty much a perfect storm, and it's not going to be solved by just replacing an individual. It has to be a combined coalition of the willing, spread across different ministries with the backing of the president, and a real commitment by the Eskom staff to play ball, and the private sector to do the investing in the new renewables.
So you're saying that Gwede Mantashe 2022 is the year he made some much better decisions. And it seems he got rid of Andre de Ruyter. So in a way, score one for him. Do you think that he's now on board? Do you think that he's going to be part of those on Cyril Ramaphosa's team moving in the right direction? And I ask that on the back of Ramaphosa's re-election with a wider margin, more of his allies in the top 7.
Well, Gwede Mantashe was part of the decision, the cabinet decision to appoint Director rather than the alternative, who was an engineer. And he will be part of the decision to appoint the new CEO. And if that new CEO is part of the fix-it brigade, in other words, listen, we can fix these machines, then what will happen is everybody who believes in that narrative will come up against a very serious shock when they discover that actually Andre de Ruyter was right all along. And there wasn't really a necessity to get rid of him. And unfortunately, trying to then fix the machines without necessarily putting up sufficient new generation capacity on the grid might result in the prolongation of load shedding. So what we really need is more renewables on the grid to create the space, but the grid itself is constrained, as we've seen in the disappointing results of Bid Window 6, which should have been 4.2 gigawatts, initially 5.2, then 4.2, and now it's less than 1, because there isn't sufficient capacity on the grid to allow more of the applicants to be approved.
Mm. Do you think, and we've heard in the last few days the President asking for the SANDF to be deployed, I think, to 4 power stations. That, I believe, is now in full force. Is that going to help our sabotage situation, bearing in mind that the problem seems to be from within? It's contractors who've already got the security clearance, who have found fiddling with one tiny part of the machine.
Well, all we can really do is hope and hope and hope that the SANDF present is going to help to counteract sabotage. This should have happened a long time ago. People have been talking, especially De Ruyter, that there's sabotage, there's sabotage, there's sabotage. The Minister for Public Enterprises has on occasion said, yes, this is a major problem, but we haven't seen the combined security response that we needed. We needed a criminal justice system response. We needed an MPA response. We needed a police response. Now we've got an SANDF response. This is what we need to defend the public infrastructure, which is under attack, and it is harming every single South African. So this is not a problematic move. It's a good move, but I don't think it's on big enough scale. And it doesn't, if it's just the SNDF on its own, it's not good enough. It must be, all the security forces must collaborate.
Yeah, and after all, our power stations are key points. They're national key points, aren't they? So they have to be, they should have been secured very much more before this. Thank you so much for chatting to us this evening. Always such a pleasure. Professor Mark Swilling, co-director of the Centre for Sustainability Transitions at Stellenbosch University.